I can hear you.
Oh, perfect.
Peter, I think he's...
I'm not sure if they have sound.
Oh, okay. Righto. Need to unmute when I'm done. So thanks, everyone, for taking that little break. And, yeah, thanks for annihilating all that fruit and the carrots. I mean, it's nearly gone. So up next, we've got Peter Doohan from Signify, who's going to be delivering his presentation for us. Peter, you can hear me, I think, but I can't hear you. But blink 7 times if you can hear me. Right. No. All right. So they need to mute me while they unmute him. So I'll hand it over. Thanks, Peter.
Can I first test the sound? I think you can hear me now, right?
Yep.
Okay, super. All right. I will put to full screen. Let me get going. I prepared a couple of slides. I hope there's not too much echo, and I hope that everybody can hear me fine. Otherwise, Rafi, ping me, then I will try to improve. I will do a presentation of what is in Signify, the lighting company that I represent. So Signify is a big global lighting company. What is currently the activity around the Office application? I am responsible for Office. I know that your seminar goes broader than just only Office applications. So you probably also have an interest into education, universities, and maybe hospitals. But I simply am the person that runs the Office application within Signify. And I have on the same Teams call here Rafi Mohammed. He is the product manager that is working in my team to bring propositions into the Office market. And Rafi is responsible for PoE, the PoE proposition that we carry. So I will introduce this in a proper way, but my opening statement is that actually I'm lucky, and I hope you guys recognize that people now, after the pandemic, they understand that working together, coming to school, coming to your university, coming to the office, coming to retail stores actually gives a much better feeling and performance to people. And actually now offices and maybe education facilities are recognized a bit more the value that they bring, which is creativity. When people work together physically in one space, you guys are in one space, right? You are getting creative. And when you do just Teams calls or Zoom calls, you lose that creativity. So my prediction actually is that offices and education facilities and healthcare facilities will become even more relevant now people are coming out of the pandemic. Now, what's happening in the office field, and I just make one more slide with a generic introduction. Hopefully that's okay with you, to explain a little bit what Interact brings into the office field. Interact is a proposition from Signify. And obviously the most dominant use case that we are driving is still around energy saving. On the left, you see a picture of sustainability. And that is getting more and more profound. So I will go into the details in a second. But actually what we recognize is that the lighting use case to control the lights will be the means to optimize the BMS, the building management system. So actually lighting could be seen as a very efficient, well-organized occupancy sensor for optimizing the rest of the building around the axis of sustainability. Then when you have that data from the lighting use case, well, then you might actually also want to use it for flexible workplace. It's clear that people will not return to the office like all days of the week, maybe 5 days of the week is not what they want to do. They want to optimize perhaps their activity a little bit around the type of work that they need to do. And maybe Wednesday will become the prime day of people going back to office, and you need to measure that and you need to control that. And you need to see how many people are in the workspace. Well, if you automate the lights, if you walk into the room, the lights go on. And if you walk away, the lights go off, you can of course use that data to optimize your workplace and see how many people actually are in your premise. Then the third avenue that might be relevant for you, and that might be actually something that in the future will become very dominant in offices, is that people now know more and more better, understand how light affects your sleep and how light affects your mood. And actually that element of well-being will be something that we will see coming back stronger and stronger. And we see even specs being developed for education, for healthcare, for offices that state that there is 250 milliampere lux needed to make people awake during the morning. So maybe from 9 to 11 a.m. you have that kind of light levels. Just as much people now understand that blue light in the evening when you go to sleep actually is not a good thing because it keeps you awake. And the reverse is true for making you awake in the morning. You need the blue light, and office lighting can certainly cater to that. And that's around the axis of well-being. Well, with that, let me check because I will now dive into the details. So let me just check if everything is still fine. Can you guys hear me okay? Is this working? Okay, very good. So I will now open up a little bit more color. So this was just a two slide presentation to get you guys going. But now I have a more in-depth slide. And Rafi is on the call, who is actually the expert on PoE. And I will make sure that you guys will understand where the future is going to be of the lighting industry, which is actually the combination of both PoE and wireless, will be the dominant future-looking technologies that we are investing in, at least Signify, right? If Signify is any representative of the industry, then the future is either PoE or wireless. But let's also state clearly, let's be honest, let's be plain and outspoken, that actually the dominant situation today is that still a lot of lights are just controlled by means of 0 to 10 or DALI, and usually in DALI broadcast, so no bidirectional traffic, it's just a dump load that is being switched to on or switched to off, and sometimes actually it is only being able to be switched to on and off, and that's it, with floor controllers like relay panels, etc. So to be honest, the dominant sales that we still see today is where lighting is not intelligent and where lighting is just a controlled load in the building. However, that use case that I described for getting more sustainability out of your total operation of the building, where the lighting acts as an occupancy sensor for HVAC to kick your variable airflow valve out of eco mode when people come into the meeting room, or to bring it back to eco mode when there are no people in the building, to optimize the HVAC, to optimize the BMS, the lighting can actually more and more be seen as an occupancy sensor, and then your simple floor controller doesn't work anymore, right? So if this is the future, it will all remain stupid. But if this is the future, it will become smart, and lighting will carry a lot of value in the form of an occupancy sensor for HVAC. And that, of course, is only possible with PoE or wireless. That's where the future starts to shape up. Now, then the second avenue of use cases, the one that I had in the middle and on the right of the previous slide, those are being recognized around flexible workplaces and around health and well-being. But we also need to be honest that there are quite a lot of next best alternatives. If you want to invest in health and well-being, if you want to invest in flexible workplaces, well, actually, you may want to run that outside, next to, not related to your lights. You can organize a couple of simple standalone sensors to do people counting, and that probably gets you going for that use case. So not yet today, lighting has proven to be the accepted, recommended practice for these use cases, as the next best alternatives are also quite near. If you want to keep an eye on the future of lighting, take a look at the sustainability targets, and those are the ones that are most likely to be dominant and drive forward our technology. Well, if you think about this use case here, and if you then think about the technology bringing it forward, it's going to be either PoE or wireless. And now on the right-hand side, I will make a discussion and do a little bit of an interview together with Rafi. Hopefully Rafi's sound is also good. And to see what are the pros and what are the cons around PoE lighting versus wireless. So those two technologies. Yeah. Can you? Yeah, I can hear you fine. Hopefully everybody can hear Rafi also fine.
Thank you.
Okay. So clearly winning PoE and wireless. If it boils down to Signify and a lot of other lighting companies, it's that technology that's winning. Now let me state firmly around wireless. Maybe you have heard a lot of wireless and all of the standards that are being proposed as we speak. Well, actually, if you look to the quality of the standard of wireless versus the quality of the standard of the PoE, by no means that is a comparison. The wireless standard actually is quite weak, and actually interop between devices from one company and the next company is quite a challenge. It's actually not possible. So every company is investing on its own to make a wireless application, and there is no dominant wireless standard yet. As much as you recognize PoE as a standard, there is no dominant wireless standards yet, and every company is struggling between brackets against the limitation. So wireless, if you count the number of nodes that you can put on a gateway, that is usually on the order of 200, and maybe if you have a very good network, you can go to 300, or maybe it's even 500. But it's always that companies struggling against the bandwidth that is available in wireless. And so maybe Rafi, if you would answer how many lights can be operated by PoE in a building on one and the same infrastructure, would there be any limitation, Rafi? So is the number of nodes also a struggle in PoE?
Technically, no, as long as you have a backend infrastructure for cabling and you have switches, the number of nodes is not a restriction. You can scale up as your building capacity increases, and you can scale down. The only restriction which comes is in number of switches and the kind of backend cabling, vertical cabling you have. If you are out of capacity with copper, upgrade it to fiber, and if you have fiber in place, then there is no limit. You can keep scaling up.
Yeah, you keep scaling up, and you can even add these so-called standalone sensors on the same type of switches, right? You can operate lights, but you can also add more music to these switches.
Yeah, maybe.
Which is super, super difficult in the case of wireless, right? There it's almost impossible to add more sensors to the equation.
Yes, this would bring additional complications. For now, if you look at wireless lighting control, wireless additional sensors, or different companies coming up with different types of products on wireless. So then when you start adding wireless, when they say wireless, mostly everything is 2.4 gigahertz on BLE. And when you have multiple devices from multiple manufacturers coming into one space, then you end up causing interference. And as a result, there would be chances that none of them work seamlessly. So going wired would be much better solution. And when you go wired, if you look at the traditional systems, what network-based systems we had been using since the early 80s or early 90s, these systems were introduced when the need or requirement from lighting system was just to dim them up, dim down, recall a scene. the amount of data capacity, carrying capacity these systems have is around 9.6 kbps. So now if you are looking to have a people count sensor, real-time data, the traditional network systems, though they use Cat5 cable, they cannot carry that amount of data. And with wireless, you have a lot of interference. So the clear winner becomes a PoE system, which can, because of mainly for the bandwidth reason, and also as a maintenance contract, you can manage all the switches by one IT company, and down the line, you can have edge devices from different companies.
Clear. So maybe why is then, if then Rafi explains that clearly PoE has its merits, has its benefits, doesn't struggle so much as wireless. Well, why is then wireless so dominant in on those two choices here? Well, actually, yeah, maybe I go first and then you go second, Rafi. Actually, topic number 3 here, you can see that a lot of lighting jobs are so-called tenant upgrades. The building already exists, the infrastructure is there, the tenant goes in and just wants to have a new carpet and a couple of new lights. And in that case, specifically in the US, you better stay below the ceiling, right? Because there might be rat's nest or asbestos above the ceiling. And then of course wireless wins, because you can stay below the ceiling to commission and to organize everything. And then wireless is clearly winning. So in this market here, wireless actually is winning and becomes the cost-effective technology of choice. For new build or major renovation where indeed you open up the ceiling, so to say, it boils down anyway to the choice for what kind of wires would you want to go. Is it mains wires or is it going to be PoE wires that you're looking to organize? And there could, of course, be benefits for adding mains wires to the lights, or there could be benefits of adding PoE wires to the lights. Actually, you then only need one type of wire, which is the PoE wire that is needed.
And if we continue on the argument of tenant upgrade to wireless, so if you look at the first argument on the left hand side, where many offices had just a floor control on off, because pre-pandemic, all our offices would start at 7 or 8 in the morning, and there would be people until late 8 in the evening. But during pandemic, the offices were shut, and there were many buildings with all the lights switched on entire day, though there were no people around. And now, as we have started coming back to offices, we are not occupying 100% of the space. There are only part of the area or part of the floors which are getting occupied. And now if they are looking to do renovation, laying additional cables or setting up a PoE infrastructure is a bit cumbersome. And hence the choice of people opting for wireless is winning more for such retrofit or renovation projects.
Clear. Yeah. All right. Another argument here that could be.
Peter, sorry, just confirming, you can hear me now. So we've got the microphone on this end working. So I just just wanted to make it a little bit interactive as well. So if anyone's got any questions thus far on this, we do need to be conscious on time. Peter and Rafi, we've got the next one starting in about 10 minutes, if that's okay.
10 minutes, so, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. That's perfectly fine.
Just if anyone's got any questions quickly in here, just put your hand up and I'll take the microphone across to them, and you can hopefully answer the questions. But yeah, keep going for now. Yes.
Yeah, actually, the remainder slides that I had was just a repeat of the same. This is actually the summary message here. So let me just quickly do that. One of the elements could also be on portfolio completion. So sometimes a PoE offering is not as complete as a wireless offering, or vice versa. Topics like emergency lighting could come to play there. And there could also be arguments where people say, well, actually, I like to have my building run on-prem, and a cloud infrastructure might not be to my liking. And some PoE systems actually come out better on-prem versus other systems come out better on cloud. So that could also be a reason for choosing one above the other. Well, completing the storyline in my presentation, I just have a couple of slides that reconfirm that the traditional way of organizing lights will slow down and new avenues are being explored. This is from an expert report. This is actually a McKinsey study that shows that PUE is booming in terms of the penetration around lighting. Here, not much growth is left because it's completely converted, but lighting is definitely coming. One of the elements and questions that we can answer in the conversation is that, hey, maybe the DC grid could be an avenue that is of relevance around PUE lighting, because you may anyway have already DC batteries, DC cars, DC solar cells. And then if you keep organizing your power in a DC way, PUE comes up, of course, favorable. Also, the wiring infrastructure is much less simple. And Rafi already mentioned, we have things like people counting sensors. This one is integrated here into the light, which is a replaceable socket. So if you can exchange it in the future for other sensors, you are able to do that. And then you can make a thermal image, and you can calculate the number of people in a room by just operating your lights. Well, with that, maybe we close for questions that may have come up.
Thanks, Peter and Rafi. I'm sure we've got some questions. Anyone? Yep. Hang on. All right at the back. Right. Hang on.
Thanks, gentlemen. Great presentation. Good to see this. Curious, just in terms of statistics and the cost of lighting in a classic office building currently with conventional technology, and the expectations future once we start seeing the deployment of more intelligent sensing, control systems, etc. What sort of realistic savings do you think we should see there?
So let me talk first about the kind of savings that I see, and then I talk about cost. The savings that we see obviously are related to the energy saving of the lights. The lights do not need to be on when there are no people in the building. Rafi already mentioned that the return to office after the pandemic is a bit more scattered. People stay longer, or people come earlier. And so that is the kind of saving that you may see. Now, that in itself is not fully sufficient to make a straight 2-year payback time converting your lights from the existing, perhaps LED, or from the existing LED to new LED with the smart lighting. So existing LED may already be quite efficient, and the saving that you can make additionally will not pay for the upgrade. However, what will pay for the upgrade is the effect of integrating it to the building management system. Actually, lighting, when it's LED, is in the ballpark order of, and maybe Rafi knows this more by the top of his head, like 14% of the load of a building, of the kW value of a building, after you have done the transition to LED lighting. The remainder is mostly heat, and that you can save much more, and there's a fast payback on it if you use the data from your lights. So there the payback is actually very aggressive in terms of making the additional investments on smart lighting. Now then on cost, say you have a $100 fixture, which is then a plain vanilla normal lighting fixture, right? $100. You would add maybe like $15, $20 to make it connected, and that price will go down quickly because of the volume. There is no fundamental reason why that price would not go down if we make larger volume. So that's on the pricing of these connected fixtures. They are more expensive, but the price will go down aggressively on the volume.
Also, Peter, to add, when you are looking at a conventional system, if you want to do just a DALI broadcast, there is additional conduits and additional cables and additional installation which comes in, and additional planning time. If you account all these costs together, the delta is still comes from.
Correct.
Okay, answers the question. Cool. Yep. Anyone else? I know everyone's asking what's in the background there, Peter. What's going on in the background behind you there, mate?
Oh yeah, this is actually the headquarter building of Signify, and it has a big atrium with a big tree, like a artificial tree, right? And it's kind of mimic.
Is that
mimicking.
POE too? That tree, mate?
No, I don't know. I think it's DMX, but
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know.
Right.
And it's mimicking dappled shades. If the sun is coming through the leaves, right, you have these dappled shades, and that's kind of like the pattern. So it makes me relaxed.
Yeah. Oh, hang on, I'm muted. No. All right, thank you very much. Any other questions? Nope. Peter, Rafi, thank you so much for joining us. What time is it over there, Pete?
It's only 1 o'clock, so
Yeah, right.
we're still, still a
Got a
full
long
day.
way to go.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Take care, guys.
Okay,
No,
thanks.
look, really appreciate you guys taking the time out to join us here for BICSI Q2 2022. So yeah, much appreciated, and we'll get you some information over about the seminar. And likewise, if anyone's got any queries, we've got Carol here, who would be more than happy at the tavern to answer all questions. She said the more technical, the better. Okay, so beautiful. Thanks, Peter. Thanks,
Okay,
Rafi.
thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.